the most mysterious line of Homer's Odyssey, explained with the help of frogmen. With the help of frogmen, scientists tried to explore the Odyssey in 1963. Perhaps this claim seems infuriating and paradoxical, and yet the archaeologists of the University of Pennsylvania and the United States of America were not in the slightest mood for cleverness when they claimed that the discovery of quote-unquote oxygen bombs allowed them to illuminate a mysterious verse of the Odyssey. We're talking about Ulysses and his men running all over the place with their ship. With the help of Calypso, Ulysses, the great seafarer of the Bronze Age, was preparing to set out on his journey back to his distant land, his island Ithaca. And there he had completed the construction of his ship. He covered, as Homer reports, the hull of his raft with a layer of seaweed and undergrowth. But why did he do this? Entire generations of archaeologists and Hellenists tried to interpret this verse of the Homeric epic. In one sense, it was a kind of savura, in other words, nothingness. Others argued that the Odyssey wanted to make a soft bed. Most ignored or omitted this paragraph. Only in recent years, when archaeologists discovered the technique of the frog people, the frogmen, did they manage to interpret Homer. Indeed, the discovery of oxygen bombs, as the archaeologist George Bass used to say, offered inexhaustible research possibilities to the researchers of the past. Since the Stone Age, man has been sailing the Mediterranean, developing trade relations. Very often, however, the light ships of the peoples of antiquity sank, dragging in the bottom the goods they were carrying, precious samples of customs of the civilization of the time they're presented. And these priceless relics remain in the peace of the seabed, untouched, protected from the profane hands of later generations. The frogmen had begun to explore the depths completely amateurishly, discovering many archaeological relics. But not having the required knowledge, they could not appreciate the value of the finds. They often destroyed them. However, today, the archaeologists themselves have turned into frogmen and are excavating the bottoms of the seas, trying to carefully retrieve the loads of shipwrecks of antiquity. Such a vessel from the Bronze Age was found near the Turkish coast off Cape Yenidunia, Caledonia. The boat was first photographed, and after the staff plan was drawn up, its towing began slowly. A few weeks later, it had been reassembled. It was a small vessel, about 30 feet, 10 meters from the vessels it carried. The archaeologists came to the conclusion that it had sunk about 1,200 BC. That means it was around the end of the Bronze Age. The timber was Syrian and probably built in Syria. Also, it should have approached Cyprus, the center of copper production at the time, because it also transported a ton of copper with the Kypro-Minoan estates. There were also weapons, tools, and household utensils. Apparently, it was a floating factory of the Homeric era that had made weapons. Many of the tools must have been similar to those Calypso gave to Ulysses, and under the load of copper, the frogmen discovered a layer of algae and twigs. Now, they no longer doubted their usefulness. They were used to protect the ship's hull from the cargo of copper. It was very natural that Ulysses also had the means on his boat to make or repair the weapons of his warriors. Homer's verses had been interpreted. The shipwrecks of Caledonia was discovered in 1954 at a depth of about 27 meters, about 90 feet down. The underwater excavation was started in 1960 by archaeologists, researchers Peter Throckmorton, George F. Bass, and Frederick Dumas, where a large number of findings were found, including Mycenaean vessels and copper talents of possible Cypriot origin. And we wonder, however, what this raft might have been like. Was it this ship was it not the simple plan that we all have in mind? How did the seaweed not get washed away with the first wave of the sea? Surely Ulysses would have foreseen that with his sharp mind, that they would not last until he reached his homeland. This was published on the Greek newspaper Dichydromos, meaning mailman, April 16, 1963. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.